pro wrestler. I am a sports entertainer.
What?
I'll say it again. I am a sports entertainer.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's the Sports Entertainers Podcast, the exclusive wrestling podcast in the Rose City. My name is Drake Demore, and I'm joined by my co-host today, first and foremost, the Frost Father, Aaron Sanders. How's it going, man?
What do you hear? What do you say? You know what? I'm good. Mother Nature's been kind to us, and same with the wrestling world. A lot to talk about, so I'm not going to say any more, Drake. I mean, we in for a good one today.
Absolutely, and we're gonna have a lot to talk about, but before we get into all the topics, we gotta say hi to our buddy, Kurlis and Aaron. What's going on, man?
It's been a busy time in wrestling, and I'm excited to talk about all of it, the good, the bad, the positive, the negative. So let's get right into it.
Chinchilla.
We're chinchilling today. Let's chinchill a little bit. Let's reminisce a little bit about ourselves really quickly, boys. 1 year ago today, us three got together at the Lumberjack about this time and decided to do a wrestling podcast. And, long story short, here we are. We did about 25 episodes, a couple interviews, vlogs, wrestling videos on YouTube, and look to do some more. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun. And before we get into all the breaking news, really quickly, tell me about this year. How have you guys enjoyed it?
It's been really fun, man. It's been great to just talk about wrestling. I feel like wrestling is more popular than it's ever been, but at the same time, it is always kind of hard to find people to talk about it because it's still a little bit niche. But I remember the first topic we were talking about was Sami Zayn, so it's kind of it's that feel good story we were talking about. Now we're heading into WrestleMania season and into the Elimination Chamber as well. So it's exciting.
Who would have thought a plate of crepes over at the Lumberjack would lead us right into our 1 year episode? But we're on the road to WrestleMania. We're on the road to plenty great things. We're going to get into what's best for business. We're going to put on boss mode. I mean, what more can you say than, strap yourself in? WWE, AEW, ROH, TNA. We got all this stuff going on, and it feels like we have a universal remote of wrestling. And how can you go wrong with that?
Lots going on, Aaron. Lots going on. It's a Sports Entertainers Podcast, episode 23. Forgot to mention that. It's their 23rd episode. And it's the exclusive wrestling podcast of the Rose City. Aaron Sanders, Kurlis, Maddie, Drake Demore here. And you mentioned TNA, you mentioned the Rose City, and one of the most recent breaking news stories in a breaking news crazy month so far for wrestling, and only 7-8 weeks of this calendar year. One thing we'll talk about is the unfortunate news in a sense of Scott D'Amore being released, terminated, fired by TNA Wrestling. That's pretty much what we know. It's out of nowhere. They decided to basically a restructuring of the company, right, of Anthem. They absorbed TNA, so they said out with the old, in with the new. We're getting rid of this president. We're bringing in a new guy. Restructuring, right? So then we became interested in this, and we learned that Scott actually tried to buy TNA himself to be the sole owner, to completely control it, and that did not go his way. So they're thinking that Scott knew that what was coming. Writing was on the wall, so he tried to buy himself out, buy the company out to continue to do what he's been doing for about 6 or 7 years. And not only that, but this has been kind of going on for at least a couple of years. The most recent news is about 3 years ago, actually, almost now in 2021. He tried to sign Braun Strowman, bring him in for Bound for Glory, which is like the WrestleMania. And the higher ups thought, nah, he's not that big of a deal, which, maybe is something to argue. I don't know. I think obviously he would have done some business for them, but would he have been the Hulk Hogan of TNA? Who, I don't think so. But nevertheless, that's the story. And obviously, I haven't talked to him. I haven't heard much about it from anyone else. Everyone else kind of learned about it the way that we did. And that's it. So I seen a post on Facebook, which led me to go to the wrestling news, and the first thing I see is Scott D'Amore something something, and I'm like, oh gosh. And I go to the go to the group chat, and you guys had already gotten to it.
Mhm.
Um, and that's what we know. So we still have Sacrifice coming up. It's going to be a lot different, though. It's going to be a lot different. What do you guys think?
Unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate after all the goodwill that Scott put into that company and the morale, and I he he was the face of TNA in a lot of ways. People looked at TNA and were like, "Wow, he's the one bringing such a positive vibe back into that product." Where 2014. I mean, think about the where TNA was, Impact Wrestling was, and people kind of looked at it and kind of laughed at it. It won't be around for any longer. But Scott kept that wheel going, and kept that company going. And I don't understand the business side of things, and I don't understand why they would do such a thing. But it's just unfortunate. I mean, especially because he's Windsor's own, man. Like it sucks. It sucks to lose that a little piece of Windsor within the wrestling industry. So that's how I see it.
It's one of those weird moves in terms of business, but then again, they don't have to have a rhyme or reason as to why they make these moves. But waking up to that was one of the strangest news in wrestling, and with all that's going on in the last week or so, this just adds on to it, which sucks. Now, I will say this, on the journalism side, there's a lot of assumptions and speculations as to why he got fired, as per the case for any other wrestling, breaking news or anywhere around social media. But I'm going to be neutral and not read the maybe, perhaps, or it's been speculated reports because it's just not in my nature. We see too much of it. We just wait until, somebody says something. But I will say this, the dominoes will fall internally in TNA with this decision. All I know is that the fella that's running it now brought WWE to the score for a mass of 16 years or whatnot. But that doesn't necessarily mean the business. But I will say this, Drake and Kurlis, we're looking at some local wrestling community forums, and they just went crazy. I mean, they went El Pollo Loco. They were damning the decision. They were talking about possibly boycotting Sacrifice next month. But again, I'm like this. I would still go because you never know what's going to come out of it. And this may be one of the last times we see TNA come to Windsor for quite
Yeah.
some time. But what are you going to do to damn it? Just imagine if you were 8 or 9 years old and you went to the show a year ago and you say, gee, I like to come back here because it's in Windsor and I want to say, hey, I was there to my chums. And then your parents keep on saying, well, no, we're not because they let go of Scott and TNA is going to look different. I'm like, I would still go because you're not representing the TNA that it is now. You're representing the TNA that was before, and especially a year ago when Scott ran the thing. And plus, it's wrestling in Windsor. It's a big thing in the Rose City. We're the home of what, 218,000 people? You get to be a part of that small few that could say, hey, 20 years from now, I'm going to say, hey, I was there. So for people to boycott this decision, and you know which group I'm talking about, and I'm not going to mention their names. It's just a damning decision on their part. It's a damning decision on TNA. But I will say Scott's going to be back on his feet really soon. But it's just a weird move, and it just adds more to the crap Sunday with all the breaking news that's been going on the last week and a half. I'll still watch
Yeah.
TNA, and I'll still support it because it's on TV. It's everywhere. How are you going to ignore it in the world of social media? So to hell with what people say about their speculations. Let's just stick with the facts for now, and let's just represent and talk about wrestling the way we've been doing it lately. Tell people what's going on and what we say.
Aaron makes a good point about like we were talking about this before. There might not be a chance to watch wrestling in Windsor like in the near future. Enjoy it while we have it. This is the last crumb of Scott D'Amore's TNA, so let's just enjoy it. Let's just go and have a good time. I mean, that's how I see it too.
Yeah, no doubt. It's definitely going to change things for at
Oh,
least TNA in Windsor. Like, I think, yeah, I mean, obviously it's the house he built. It's going to be what it is. I think they'll be okay, but like, will the yeah, you need that wrestling kind of mind over it. I mean, they still, as far as we know, they still have Lance Storm and all those guys and girls back there, but yeah, it's just really weird that it would even happen. B, maybe wait until after Sacrifice at least. I don't know. So yeah, that's the thing is we don't want to push them out of town either. If there is any chance for them to come back,
mhm.
I would like to have wrestling here. It is just strange the way it went down. And for a guy that I can't speak for, I think that that's what he would want anyway. I don't think that he would want, like I don't think that even he is turning his back completely on, on the business, or better yet, on TNA, on the organization. I think he'll land on his feet, and to be honest, he doesn't have to. He'll be fine here, just in Windsor, just doing what he does here. But if he really wants to, I mean, I put it out there, and I don't know if it made much sense, but like I said, this is a guy that has all the passion and knowledge out there to turn things around, to turn divisions around. And he did it with the Knockouts division. That's why he first came in to TNA, was back in 2003, was to book specifically the Knockouts division. And back then he built that into something that thrived. It was more popular, obviously, than the women's division in WWE at the time. They actually had wrestling, and he gave them the time, and that is what helped him build himself in TNA at that time, to become Coach D'Amore and to become the part-time booker and part of the creative team. And that's what, helped him go to Japan and then come back and go all over the world. And so that being said, there are some other organizations out there that can really use some help in their women's divisions, is what I was getting at more specifically. I mean, this guy can do anything. He can run the whole business, but is he going to take over for Triple H? Obviously not. Shawn Michaels? No. Tony Khan? No. Maybe Ring of Honor. A lot of people have made a good point about that. So my point is, he's like a William Regal. You can bring him in and he can do something specific, or you can do it all, or he doesn't have to. So if you're looking for him, maybe give him a call right now.
I do want to point out too, in terms of the knockout division, he helped that knockouts division that had Gail Kim and Awesome Kong and ODB around, and made that whole division legitimate. But I also want to point out too that there's still going to be some remnants of Scott D'Amore behind the scenes for now. So all isn't lost when it comes to the teachings and the prowess of Scott D'Amore, because even as, and I could relate this to sports, it's like, even when you were coached by someone and they left some big of an impact, and maybe one day you decide to retire and you become a coach too, just remember where you got all those teachings and knowledge from, the person that helped you along the way. So TNA isn't fully lost. I mean, again, damn the decision, but there are some people that were still under the tutelage and the teachings of Scott D'Amore. And hopefully now, with them pretty much in a bigger spotlight than they were before, that they could step up and continue the legacy that D'Amore has put up in TNA, especially with the rebranding and whatnot. And that's all I have to say about that.
You mentioned the rebranding.
That's a good point. Yeah, way to wrap it up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, a lot's been going on. A lot has been going on in the world of wrestling. That really did shake things up on Wednesday last week for us, for sure. And while that was going on, we were getting ready for this WrestleMania press conference. About 2 weeks ago, the wrestling world was shook in another direction when The Rock showed up to seemingly help Cody Rhodes out and defeat the big dog, something that he couldn't do. So not sure still at this point internally. It surely seems like they said, okay, never mind, let's not do that, and let's flip it again. Basically, well, by the time we're talking, this press conference has went down, and it's Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania main event. It's solid. It's in the books. The last week leading up to that was incredibly confusing, a little back and forth. And I think that the fans ended up on top. I think everyone should be happy, but a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. And on the other side, we have a heel Rock back in the WWE in some capacity, pretty wicked. Roman Reigns is almost, underneath, well, definitely underneath him in the rankings. Seth Rollins is somehow in the mix, and it's pretty freaking awesome. So I don't know who wants to lead off. It's been a crazy week.
Can I take the cake on this one?
Go ahead,
Now,
Aaron.
I do want to say, and this is my disclaimer for those of you listening in, whether if you're a big-time wrestling fan or tuning in for the first time, as a sportscaster, I say, what I see right there. We try to paint the picture. Now, when they talked about this kickoff press conference, I was expecting something else. And only for me to believe it was an glorified pre-show. But again, that's the sportscaster in me because I expected a question period from the media and whatnot. So, and by the way, boys, I had a brain fart, and I honestly thought that WrestleMania was coming up in about a week or so because keep on saying WrestleMania kickoff. There's so much going on, right? There's so much going on. But I will say this. I didn't like where the Cody Rhodes angle was going with The Rock returning, but now I do. I am interested, and I would consider this my swerve moment of the year. I didn't expect this to happen. We have heel Rock back for the first time in 21 years. Cody and Roman at WrestleMania, but here are the questions. Will it be a triple threat main event for the title? Will The Rock put himself in? Because remember, he was talking about trying to be the head of the table in one of his promos. Will that be planting the seeds to see who would be head of the table? Now, when The Rock returned, it was one of the most disliked videos on YouTube that week, and there was one podcaster that got so PO'd that he had to cut his show early because that's how intense he got. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, let's calm down because we had a feeling The Rock was going to come over and take over, and there are reasons why. But I won't speculate on that because, again, tonight I don't want to speculate. I just want to play the facts. But I do want to say this, though, and this is the one negative thing about this whole angle, gentlemen. Going on social media, you see things that you don't want to see. And then we heard there were threats for The Rock's daughter. And she does not deserve that. I'm not a fan of her work, but I know good and hell well she did not deserve those death threats. So it's like,
Crazy.
You're reaching out to the wrestling community, but sometimes it gets a little too much.
So I just kind of like to backtrack a little bit on the angle itself. Obviously, death threats, not good. Don't do that. But just like leading up to it, Cody at the end of the Royal Rumble pointing at Roman and being like, I want you, and then
Like
coming
Uncle
on
Sam.
yeah, and then coming on SmackDown and being like, never mind, here's The Rock. I don't want you at WrestleMania. It just made Cody look like a geek, and this was definitely not their plan. I just got to put that out there. If anyone's like, anyone out there is like, oh, you guys just got to wait for it to play out. This was not their plan. There's no way this was their plan. They just saw that people were not digging The Rock, and they were worried that he was going to get booed out of the building, and that's obvious. That should be obvious to most wrestling fans. It was very stupid. Like Drake said, it was an emotional roller coaster, an American roller coaster, if I'm gonna be straight up. But it sucked, man. It sucked, and I'm glad they backtracked. I'm glad Rock's heel because it works way better. Egotistical movie star The Rock came back and tried to steal the spotlight. Makes way more sense than American hero Rock wants to come back and finish his story that wasn't a story until 5 minutes ago. So
talk about a punch to the gut, a low blow, or a TKO, if you will.
even The Undertaker came out on interview. I don't know if you guys saw this, but he was like, it was a gut punch to me when Cody gave his spot to The Rock.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It just didn't make any sense, right? It just doesn't make any sense. And honestly, they saved face so well. Like there's so many possibilities now. So now they're talking about a potential tag team match, the Samoans versus Cody and Seth. Rather that be a WrestleMania Backlash, a SummerSlam down the line. Great, that'd be awesome. I mean, even Roman versus The Rock down the line would be awesome. Even on night one, and then having Cody and Roman night two would be sweet. Seth and The Rock, Seth and Roman, like there's just so many possibilities that can come out of this. And then you got Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre sitting on the sidelines just begging for a shift. But it's interesting, man. It's interesting right now. And to go back a little bit again to the Royal Rumble, obviously Cody won. He was just gonna pick Roman, and then Seth said, "Hey, what about me, man?" And he was like, "Ah, good point. Let me think about it." And then somehow in there he decided like, I should just let The Rock beat Roman. And yeah, what the heck, right? But to go back to all that, we also have Gunther sitting on, I don't want to say sitting on the sidelines, but this guy's over 600 days as the Intercontinental Champion. He's probably going to have another triple threat match at WrestleMania. Probably be awesome. And we thought he was going to have a big Royal Rumble, and we were all kind of wrong. So we're washing this cookie bet. We got to get to the cookie bet part of the show here real quick.
Can I say one?
Yeah.
one more thing before we get to Gunther, because I don't wanna go too far away from this because I thought of something. All of this is Jungle Boy's fault somehow.
Yeah,
If you think
domino
about
effect.
it, the domino effect. Okay, Jungle Boy told Punk to cry him a river. Punk gets fired after a fight. Punk goes back to WWE. Punk gets injured. Rock is like, I could save WrestleMania, and now we're here. So the biggest domino effect in wrestling was Jungle Boy Jack Perry. I don't care what anybody says, like it or not. That guy made an impact in wrestling somehow. Anyway,
Do not
Gunther.
trust CM Punk. Do not trust CM Punk.
No.
He got injured in the Royal Rumble, his first match back in 10
First-
years. Aside from his matches with Dom Mysterio, I mean, just on television. So, I mean, that was, I don't know, not that exciting. But we thought that Gunther was going to have, I thought 8 eliminations. You guys thought double digits. He had 3. So we're counting this as a wash.
Push.
I don't win with the 8. I'm nowhere close to that. But I had to go back and do some research on our cookie bets to kind of look at the board and see, who's leading right now. And I discovered something interesting. So I'm actually sitting at 1 with my one and only cookie bet. It was the first ever one, which was how long would it take for John Moxley to bleed in
That's right.
his match with somebody at Revolution last year. From there, Aaron won the WrestleMania one between Brock Lesnar and Almost. How long will the match be?
I think I was on the nose of that one, or off by a few seconds.
You're very close. There was a couple where you're on the money. The next one was how long will All Out be? Aaron also
Yes.
won that one. But there's one that we forgot about. So on episode 10, the one that was all echoey, we didn't post it or really go back to it because it was just tough to listen to.
Mhm.
But on that one, we actually made a bet. We made a cookie bet for how long Cody versus Brock would be. I said it was going to be like 5 minutes. Aaron thought it was going to be about 11 minutes. And Kurlis said 15 to 20. And the match was 17 minutes and 35 seconds.
Yes.
So this whole time,
Yes.
Kurlis had a win on the board and we didn't know about it.
I am not a complete loser when it comes to these bets. Let's go. Let's go.
We've all
Woo! I finished my story.
Updated cookie bet board. Aaron's got 2, and me and Kurlis got 1.
woody woo.
I finished the story before Cody did. Let's go.
I should have bet on that. Geez.
I should have put that as one of my bold predictions for the new year. Now I'm kicking myself.
See, I was thinking like after all of this Rock BS, I thought Cody I thought Drake's bold prediction would come true like right away. I'm like, uh-oh. But I mean, we're still on the board here.
Listen, yeah. So now, I mean, we're however many days removed from our last episode. There's obviously more than a chance that Cody completes the story in April. Like it's really pointing that way. Who knows? There's still a chance that he doesn't, but I mean, everything and everyone is behind him, so it's not like it's like he's losing for sure kind of thing. They're making us believe. So, ooh.
We'll see. It's
Yeah.
still a little. I'll believe it when I see it. At this point, I'm a big supporter in the We Want Cody movement, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm a little. It's hard to
But
bet
it's
on
not like
Roman
they're
Reigns.
doing. It's not like they're doing a triple threat and like
Mhm.
really like stacking the odds against Cody and blah blah blah, like doing the old Daniel Bryan thing. It's just like he's got another chance. He deserves it. This is bullshit, just like Cody said, and this is it. It's on him. If he loses, it's on him, just like it was last year. But it's just like it's not like they're doing this stupid like he's the underdog story, so that if he does lose, it makes sense. It's just like this is it. It's just a fight. It's just a rematch.
It's
And I like it.
Yeah, I'm liking it too. I'm liking heel Rock a lot. I'm liking how the press conference felt very UFC. I'm going back to the press conference for a little bit, but it felt very like real. These people legitimately hate each other. One nitpick.
Yeah.
Seth felt kind of like an afterthought. He kind of felt like a geek. Not gonna lie, he just sat there in the corner like
He blended well with the background, though.
I felt bad, man. He did.
You're a dude.
I think he should have had more of a role. He should have been more, he should have said more things after, especially after Roman basically called him the number two's belt. I mean, he should have said something. He should have, smacked
Yeah,
Roman or
well,
something. Did something, man.
so now it's Elimination Chamber time. They're doing some qualifying matches. Logan Paul is going to have his first ever SmackDown match next Friday in a qualifying match. And
Yeah.
the winner gets Seth at WrestleMania. So
Well, it's probably
a little
Drew,
bit of a
right?
more.
Probably Drew.
Yeah.
It's.
Well,
I
that
mean,
makes sense.
I thought it would be a triple threat with Sammy, but and Sammy's out now, so I don't know what they have to do something with Sammy, considering how
Now,
over he
listen, I
is.
did see an interesting theory. So if you recall when Shinsuke Nakamura debuted in NXT, the storyline going was that Sami Zayn could never win the big one. He could never win at a takeover, and he wanted a big match at a takeover, and he wanted to challenge, right? And basically, long story short, the surprise ended up being Shinsuke Nakamura. They had a 5-star match, in my opinion, and it looks like they're kind of running back that same storyline in a sense. Sammy doesn't know what to do with himself. He's kind of lost in between everything. He's losing. And the rumors about Okada maybe going to WWE, do they run
Yeah.
the same thing? I think that would be awesome for him to debut at WrestleMania, just like Cody Rhodes did in a one-on-one match against Sami Zayn. Now, that being said, I just read that it's a lock. Okada's going to AEW, so I guess it's
Oh,
not happening.
that would have been awesome. I
Hello,
mean,
breaking news.
But you never know. You never know. It's just a thing I just read. So that's the breaking news as we're talking, is that apparently Okada's a lock for AEW, but who knows, man?
apparently Mercedes has also been on the payroll for the last month or so. So we'll see.
Wow.
By big business, AEW, big business. I think that title is just hilarious. I just keep saying it.
Big business from a little
Big
boy. Come on now.
Big business. Let's go. Let's see how it goes. I'm excited for it. Well, I'm always excited for these weird AEW not pay-per-views, but kind of, events. So we'll see.
Well, it definitely brings the end to the rumors about where Sasha or Mercedes Moné is going to go, because there are teases about her going to TNA or coming back to WWE, but AEW, from what it looks like right now, inching closer to snagging a very big buy
Yeah.
in Mercedes Moné.
Yeah. Tony basically said it's going to be a great time in Boston. So, it has to be.
What if it's Scott D'Amore?
Hey, I wouldn't mind that. That would be awesome.
He was a boss.
He was a boss at one point. Yeah.
Very true. Very true. But
Hey.
I don't know.
No. Well, yeah, there's been a lot of news, a lot of speculations on the main event, a lot of news about bosses. So we know now that Brock Lesnar will not be featured on the WrestleMania card. I guess we know why. And man, it's been a crazy month for wrestling already. I guess we'll talk a little bit about this. I mean, this news broke. Everyone had to get their eyes on it. I mean, you have to. I mean, it's a train wreck. It's something on fire, and you just can't look away. And I don't know if it will end up this way, but people are thinking Vince McMahon's going to jail finally. So,
Oh,
Up the
man.
river.
what are your thoughts, guys? I mean, it's obvious. I mean, everyone knows what's going on, and that this guy probably is guilty of this for sure. It's one of those documentary things. You just watch and you're like, yep, he did it for sure.
He's one of those guys. It's not about allegedly. Like, you think Vince McMahon didn't do these nasty, disgusting things. He absolutely did. We're referring to the what was it? 37-page lawsuit. It might be more than that, 47, something like that. I don't know if you guys read the lawsuit. I read the whole thing because news brain. But it's vile. It reads like a horror film. I mean, Brian Alvarez said that like a while back when it first came out. It reads like a horror film. It's terrifying. It's terrible. I hope justice is served to Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, like against Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and I hope everyone who is involved gets their comeuppance, because it's awful, and it's a black mark on the wrestling industry. So it's, yeah.
Will Vince McMahon find a way to be not guilty, no chance in hell. All right, this is an absolute disgrace. But then again, I'm not surprised, because if you look back at the storylines of the early 2000s, gentlemen, I mean, there was some cringy, creepy angles with either forcing one of the divas to bark like a dog and take off their top. And again, the divas weren't promoted as serious things back then, and you have to believe that Vince McMahon and the rest of his cronies had something to do with it.
Mhm.
So now we see, like, what is what Drake said off the air. What you see is what we're going to get when it comes to Vince McMahon. And unfortunately, I'm not surprised. But I was very surprised to hear that Lesnar was a part of all this. But then again, he's been Vince's boy since he came back to WWE in, like, what, 2011, 2012. So his association with it is a shocker. And now he's annexed from the intro of WWE. And again, my bottom line for Vince is throw away the key, send him up the river. And same with John Laryngitis too. It's like I knew when he had some sort of association with this years ago in the WWE.
Mhm.
Like this guy, it was a freaking joke. But again, Vince, I don't know how many controversies he had to deal with in the last, what, 40, 50 years he's been with WWF/E. The steroids thing, and now with this and everything else, it's just,
Well,
this was barbaric and too much to take.
Aaron, it started off with the allegations in 2022 when he was ousted the first time. He was out, and it was the hush money. It was the hush money, and then he was basically he retired,
Yeah,
and then he
right.
weaseled himself back into the company with the TKO deal. Then he came back, and then all this stuff about Janelle Grant came out, and it was sex trafficking as well as sexual assault and possibly rape. Like, it's terrible, you know. It's not just wrestling news. It's world news. This is a big billionaire abusing his power and doing the worst possible things that you could imagine. It's unfortunate, and we feel for the victims, of course, and it's not good. It's not good. Not a good look.
We do want to apologize to the viewers listening, and they're very sensitive to some of the material. If you see it, you will understand. If you hear it from us, then we apologize. But again, Vince McMahon and everyone else should get their comeuppance, and for the victims, they're going to get their justice. No doubt about it. Because how are you going to deny that? The evidence is there. The proof is in the pudding. And that's it for my legal hat for the day, gentlemen.
We'll never be able to make a documentary about this guy until he's in the ground. It's just it's just more stuff just keeps coming and coming. Sports entertainers, everybody. Drake Demore, Aaron Sanders, Kurlis, Maddie. You know what it is. Next time we come to you in a couple weeks, we'll be much closer to TNA Sacrifice in Windsor. We're still gonna go. I guess we gotta get our tickets or somehow get ourselves in the door this time. I don't know how we're gonna do that, but we got that coming up. We got AEW Revolution, which will be just before. Sting will be having his last match. He's now tag team champions with Darby Allin. We got a couple more matches announced for that, and we'll be even closer to WrestleMania. I guess as we get ready to start to wrap this up, any thoughts on anything in regards to any of those pay-per-views or anything else in the world of wrestling we want to talk to you guys about?
Looking forward to Revolution. I mean, it's looking like a good card. They just announced Eddie Kingston versus Bryan Danielson. That's going to be a freaking awesome match. Young Bucks versus Sting and Darby Allin. It's going to be really cool as well. Yeah, that's a pay-per-view I'm looking forward to. Elimination Chamber, it's still the breadcrumbs of it. We'll see where that goes. But Elimination Chamber is always pretty fun. But Revolution's kind of piecing together a little bit better at the moment. That's how I see it.
I already have enough trouble with sleep as it is, so I will not be watching the Elimination Chamber live. I'm proud that it's in Australia, which is a day, probably like more than a day ahead of us, about 12 or 13 hours or whatnot. So I'm going to have to watch the repeat. And let me give my flowers to Sting on an outstanding career. No matter what happens at Revolution, he revolutionized wrestling with everybody he has wrestled with and everybody that's been associated with Sting. And it's going to be a good end of career match for Sting. And he won his last championship, especially with his protege, Darby Allin. What more can you ask for in an outstanding career? Yes, his retirement's going to Sting, but Sting will always be the icon.
we got to do a Sting episode. We absolutely got to do a Sting episode.
Yeah, around that time we should. We definitely should. Got to see Sting wrestle a few times. Pretty cool to say. I mean, a guy wrestled for like 50 years, so I think everyone got to see him wrestle. But yeah, pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
man.
I did
So,
see him wrestle last year at Forbidden Door. That's right.
I didn't get to see him
You did?
wrestle, but I
Oh, yeah.
saw him.
Yeah, he was there, but it was a crappy match. Not to knock on him, but wasn't one of his best matches. It was a little bit sloppy.
I think the match with the Young Bucks is gonna be pretty good. I think it'll be pretty good.
As long as he jumps off something, I think the crowd will be
Thank
happy.
God. That's how he's gonna end his career. You'll never see him again.
It's like the ending of The Wrestler, like the movie The Wrestler, where the guy
Yeah, exactly.
he jumps and he dies.
Jeez,
Yeah.
an abrupt ending.
Oh yeah, bleak. Our positive show, boys.
I've been meaning
Well-
to watch that one too. We got to get back
The
on
wrestling?
the wrestling movies thing. I want to see Ricky Stawicki with whatever with John Cena and Zac Efron, who was in another wrestling movie. So that movie actually looks pretty funny.
Zac Efron's a friend of the industry, and therefore
for
a
sure.
friend of the show. A friend of the show.
Friend of ours.
You know what? If The Rock can't defeat Roman Reigns, Zac Efron should step up and finish the story for Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 49.
Like it's like what's it called?
Alright.
Bret Hart versus Yokozuna, and then Hulk Hogan comes in and saves the day.
No,
We'll
Zac
have
Efron.
that, but with Zac Efron.
He went from High School Musical to finishing the story. Ain't that something?
Zac Efron finishes the story, and he just plays the same character as he did as in Iron Claw.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's all he needs to. That's all he
That's
needs to
another
do.
that's another movie I have to see. I've yet to see the Iron Claw boys.
You got to see the
Yeah, I
Iron
gotta-
Claw.
I
good,
know.
yeah.
I know.
He'll
Shall
always
I-
be there.
Shall I put a bow on this?
Sure,
Yeah.
but before we do, I just have to mention one more time. I mean, you can help me out with this, Aaron, but 1 year, boys, 1 year in the calendar of sports entertainers. Gonna continue to do it. It takes time for these things to grow, and it's gonna continue to grow. It's been fun, and we're gonna try to do some different stuff. So if you guys are listening or watching, just stay tuned to our social medias, and we're gonna try to grow this thing. But Aaron, yeah, take it away, man.
Yeah, this is pretty much a brand new season for us here at the Sports Entertainers. We have interesting things planned, but that's for us to know and for you to find out. And I do want to say two things as we sign off. Number one, let's continue to support local wrestling and wrestling as a whole. No matter what happens, we're doing this for a reason. We have our voices, we're portraying it out there, and for all of you, you have the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into wrestling because you, the fans, make wrestling possible. Without you, Cody Rhodes wouldn't be popular. Sting wouldn't have an outstanding career. And maybe up-and-comers, who knows, maybe like a Swerve Strickland could thrive off of your support. So keep on supporting local wrestling and wrestling in general. No matter what happens in the headlines, you guys make it happen. And in a few years down the road, we're going to be talking about a whole lot more moments. So thank you all for tuning in. You know where to find us in every piece of podcast website you could get this from. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, but now for Kurlis Maddie and Drake the Heel Demore, to be the Frost Father Aaron Sanders signing off, and remember to wear some soap. Happy 1 year anniversary, everybody.